I'm Dan Lucas, and we are here live at the NFL Scouting Combine in Indianapolis. We are inside a room, they call it Radio Row, and this is actually a cool setup we have here. It's part of the NFL fan experience as well. The fans get to come in here when the Combine participants are actually doing the bench press, and over behind a wall there, the broad jump, so the fans are going to get to stand there and watch these guys do the testing and perform for the scouts, and they're going to be allowed to cheer and stuff. They keep adding to this event, making it one of the must-see TV or must-attend things that the NFL is always so good at doing. But it's going to be a lot of fun here when the drills actually start, and they get underway tomorrow. But I want to bring in Scott Reynolds of PewterReport.com, our partners, because there's so much action going on here already at the Combine. Today is offensive line and running backs day. Now, what's going to happen is they're going to come in, we get to talk to them, which is good, and then they're going to be tested. They're going to get their medical tests and take the old Wonderlic test, which I don't want to take because I don't want to see my score, and then they'll start performing their drills on Friday. But Scott, offensive line day, running back day, these are a couple of areas, I mean, maybe not the highest of priorities for the Bucs, but there is some interest for sure, especially with the top end of the offensive line.
Yeah, there really is, Dan. And you look at Donovan Smith, the team I think is going to franchise him, but there are questions at right guard, where Caleb Benenoch, we learned yesterday, is moving to right tackle, thankfully. And Alex Kappa is still a young developing player, drafted last year in the 3rd round. It's a big jump from Humboldt State to the NFL, and he struggled last year. So the right guard position, and also finding an eventual replacement for DeMar Dotson, who'll be 34 years old this year. Those are priorities on the right side of that offensive line. So offensive line is a priority. We heard that from Bruce Arians yesterday. All
right. There is an offensive tackle at Alabama, and if you watched a couple of days ago, we talked about him, Jonah Williams. I guess he's the highest rated O-line in the draft, or one of the, but some of your mock drafts, you see Jonah Williams goes to the Bucs at 5. Now, I think a lot of things would have to be in play for that to happen. You mentioned Donovan Smith, or maybe a different need of possibly moving a Jonah Williams around. But is this the most interesting offensive lineman today, or are there others out there for you?
I think the Florida kid, Juwan Taylor, I think he really has a chance to go in the top 10, and I wouldn't be surprised if the Bucs like him a little bit better. He is a pure right tackle, whereas with Jonah Williams, he's a very good player, but some teams can play him at left tackle. I think some teams will move him to right. Some teams might even move him inside. But Juwan Taylor, he is what he is. He's a dominant right tackle. I think he's the best offensive lineman in the draft. And this is one of those arenas where the testing comes into play, the bench press, the 40-yard dash, all these athletic tests. Sometimes they're the separator between highly ranked prospects. And so you might see some movement here on some draft boards, not just at offensive line, but everywhere with these tests at the Combine.
You know, Bruce Arians said, I talked to him on Wednesday, and he said, listen, you watch a guy run the 40, it's a certain time, you get excited and enamored with him, but we watch the tape, he plays a lot slower. So I would imagine that these test times for the O-line guys, the tape really matters more than anything else. But, you know, this is an area that, you know, they hit a home run in one draft with Donovan Smith and Ali Marpet, and it hasn't been as productive after that. I know Caleb Benenoch, the draft pick, you mentioned Alex Kappa, and these are guys who are coming along, but when you need all that impact, you want an impact and have a dominant offensive line. How important has the draft become, and have the Bucs done as good a job as you have liked over the past couple of seasons or so?
I think we're seeing that now with Jason Light's drafts finally coming to fruition, with players getting those second contracts. That's always the key indicator, when players could get to that second contract. We saw that with Mike Evans and Ali Marpet, and even Cam Brate, who was not a draft pick, but he was an undrafted free agent, getting contract extensions. Now this year, it's Donovan Smith's turn. It's Quan Alexander. Adam Humphries, not a draft pick, but still in that draft class where he's up for a contract extension. That's the biggest indicator. Jason Light has been hit and miss in the draft. That's why the Buccaneers have not yet made the playoffs. But it's a lot better than the days of Bruce Allen and even Mark Dominic to a degree, where not many of those guys even signed second-year contracts in Tampa Bay.
All right, we did have a chance to talk with both Jason Light and Bruce Arians yesterday here at the Combine. They're working hard today, but let's hear some of the comments here on a big weekend for the Bucs and the Scouting Combine. Let's play that now. When you come to these things, I mean, are you more of a measurables kind of guy, or do you want to watch people on the field in the drill? What do you look at the combine?
For me, it's getting to know some personally for the first time, especially the interview process, and then try to put the tape to the Olympics, I call it. You know, I love watching guys on film before I come. You know, because you get enamored with a cat that runs 4.3, but then you look at the film, he plays 4.5.
Right.
You know, but so yeah, it's the ongoing process. It's the first time you get to really meet the player and get to know him.
When you get to the draft and you go through the process and then the visits to the schools, or when your staff goes to the pro days, maybe they come to the facility, what is that like for you when you start to zero in and build that relationship?
Yeah, that's the fun part. You know, you get to know the player, then somebody picks him right in front of you, you get all mad, you know. That's the beginning of it, and that's what makes the draft so much fun. Is you do fall in love with some of these guys, and you really hope they're there for you, and they're gone. In
your long career, have you ever seen a guy who just didn't get it done at the combine, but all of a sudden he's a pretty good player in the league?
Well, you just go back to last year. Philip Lindsay wasn't even invited, and he makes All Pro, you know, and did a heck of a job with his opportunity he had in Denver.
You evaluated your own roster, but now you come here and the process is beginning now. How do you feel about what you've inherited, and now the league year is going to start? It all happens at once, and it's bang, bang, bang.
Yeah, I mean, I've never walked into a situation with so many skill players, quarterbacks, receivers, tight ends, running backs, on a football team that really gets you excited, and really looking forward to working with all these guys. I think defensively, the nucleus is there. The change in style is going to help some of our players.
Jason has the hard part, he has to take care of the guys first when free agency begins. I know y'all always want to take care of your own. Will that affect the draft, how that plays out, if a guy stays or goes, and maybe a position group you've been looking at?
Yeah, it always does. I mean, free agency hits, and then you start building the team, you know, and what you've got, you always want to keep your guys that you really want, and then you start building in the draft and looking at other free agents who might fit your budget, or just knock your socks off as a player. We're going to go pay this guy.
Okay, so Bruce Arians, you know, he comes to these things. He checks out the numbers. He likes to watch the workouts. But the two things he gets out of this: one, it's just sitting down like I'm sitting with you, talking face to face, getting to know you a little bit. And then he likes to see the workouts and see if they compare at all to the game film. Have you ever seen guys, I asked him as well, you ever seen a guy who just really didn't get it done at the combine, and then all of a sudden, you know what, he's pretty good in the league?
Yeah, that happens from time to time, you know. And also, too, there's some combine snubs, some guys that aren't even invited here, that end up showing out at their pro day and end up getting drafted. Justin Watson was one of those guys who, if you look at his pro day numbers, he would have been one of the best wide receivers here. But he wasn't invited to the combine because he played at Penn, which is an Ivy League school. So has a great pro day. The Bucs love him, draft him in the 5th round, and he might be a player that takes Adam Humphries' role if Humphries isn't re-signed this year in free agency.
Well, Bucs fans are very, very fine with the Ivy League guys, because the Ivy League guys have gotten it done. Cam Braid, Ryan Fitzpatrick, your Ivy Leaguers. So offensive line we've discussed. Let's talk about the running backs a little bit, and some pretty good backs in this draft. And I actually saw a running back linked to the Bucs here early. Is it Josh Jacobs, the Alabama running back? There's two things we need to attack here. One, let's just talk about the draft side of this and what we might see. And this is a speed position. Is this maybe a smaller running back style we're looking for, a bulky guy? What do you think the Bucs are looking for the running backs here?
I really think they're looking for a David Johnson type. That's the key playmaker that Bruce Arians had in Arizona, a guy that can run and catch the ball, a threat on all 3 downs. And I don't think that player is Ronald Jones. Now, Bruce Arians, Todd McNair, the new running backs coach, Jason Light, all said that they like what they see from Ronald Jones back in college, more so than his limited game film in the preseason and the regular season, because he was hit so many times behind line of scrimmage. But Ronald Jones, a 2nd-round pick, they're going to give him another chance, try to develop him. But this is a draft class that has a lot of big backs, a lot of running backs over 200 pounds, a lot of them over 220, and that's the type of size that David Johnson was. But he can catch the ball. that's something that Rojo struggles with. So I would suspect looking for players like Darrell Henderson from Memphis, Travion Williams. Those are two smaller backs, but still over 200 pounds. They can catch the ball and make something happen on first, second, or third down. Another guy, Alex Barnes from Kansas State, has great hands, can run the ball. He's 6'1", 220 pounds, and that's the type of mold I think that Bruce Arians is looking for. He was very complimentary of Peyton Barber, who's a big back at 230.
All right, well, of course you had to get the K-State guy in there. Google this guy, you see why he's talking K-State guys. I agree, and I think it's I think you can get a good guy out of this to be an immediate contributor, because after Peyton Barber, like you said, we're just trying to give guys a chance, and that includes Ronald Jones, who Jason Light, the general manager, spoke highly of yesterday and said, listen, well, there's a mature factor here that he's going to have to go through. I mean, year two, you're either going to get it done or you're not. Now, we heard from Bruce Arians. We also did talk to Jason Light, the GM, because he comes here. I asked him questions about the combine. It's kind of different than Bruce Arians, and similar in some other ways. Let's listen to those comments, and then we'll talk about that in a little bit. Let's listen to the general manager, Jason Light. The league year's coming up, and you're going to really earn it this time. I know it's a difficult situation with the cap. I know you want to keep your own guys. Where is the challenge for you once this free agency begins?
It's doing just that. It's keeping the guys we think that drafting and developing is the best recipe for success and to continued success here. I think we're going to be a much better football team next year already, but keeping those guys in-house is the priority and what you'd ideally like to do. You have to figure out what sacrifices you're willing to do to make sure that we can do all that with the cap.
Those of us outside the building, is Deshaun Jackson happy? What does Deshaun want to do? And Bruce Arians comes in here. This is a clean slate for him. How can he talk to Deshaun, or maybe they have spoken so far? How is that relationship, or how would you categorize that? And are you having ongoing discussions with Deshaun to kind of see what's coming in his future?
Well, really, Deshaun's under contract, so there's no negotiating contract for him. Per se, but we've had a lot of conversations. I know Bruce has talked to him several times, and all the conversations I've had with him and Bruce has had with him have been very positive. Him saying we've got a lot of good things going on here, and he's excited about the future. So that'd be a better question for Deshaun, though. Lastly,
holding on to the 5th pick in the first round. I know it goes deeper than that, but the draft doesn't come to you at number 5. You have to be ready to go at number 5. And I heard you mention, you have many choices you'd like to look at there. How exciting is that pick and the options that come with it?
Well, it was pretty exciting last year that we were able to do what we did. I think those guys are all going to be good football players for us in the end that we picked up by moving back. Right now all the options are on the table. There's going to be a player that we really like at 5. It's just a matter of how much do we like him. Are we willing to move back a couple spots if somebody wants to come up? I'm always willing to listen.
Light, some interesting comments there. He likes the medicals, and I don't blame any general manager for wanting to check the medicals. Yeah. Some of the players say they get something out of the medicals here, especially if there's something they had nothing, no knowledge of before. Heart condition, something like that. Real quickly, I want to tell you, we have a poll here we're going to put up for you, and we got a few minutes here. I want you to chime in. Which position should the Bucs address in the first round? They have the 5th pick, and there is a chance that we can probably move back a little bit in this round to get some extra picks. They've done it before. They've been effective with that. But right now, defensive back seems to be the leader. And, Scott, that leads me into our next topic, really, because as exciting as today is, you do think this is going to turn into a defensive draft.
I do, especially with the front 7. This is a defensive line class that we haven't seen in quite some time, especially inside at the defensive tackle position. A lot of interior pass rushers. Mike Mayock from the Raiders said that nothing affects the quarterback. And even Bruce Arians said this too. Nothing affects the quarterback more than pressure in his face. And that's just up the middle. So you got to have some good defensive tackles. I think the Buccaneers also need to address the linebacker position. They might re-sign Quan Alexander. They might not. Levante David is your only other healthy linebacker. In a 3-4, you need linebackers. Devin White, keep an eye on this kid from LSU. Jason Light loves his linebackers from LSU. He's drafted Kendall Beckwith and Quan Alexander, and then brought in Kevin Minter last year. So he likes those LSU Tiger linebackers. The Bucs might be getting another one, especially with Kendall Beckwith. He might not be able to play again due to that ankle injury he suffered. So that's going to be a position of need. That defensive tackle, probably another edge rusher at some point in time, and they'll probably address the secondary and get another cornerback as well to throw in the mix.
All right. Quan Alexander, to me, it's a sensitive topic. I don't know if sensitive is the right word, but it's a dilemma. I think it is a dilemma for the Bucs because the work ethic, the energy he brings, his ability, it is maximum. The guy is unbelievable. He is the heartbeat to me on this defense. Do you re-sign him? First reaction, absolutely. Then you say, okay, you're less than a year out from an ACL surgery. These guys today come back very quickly, but who's going to question Quan Alexander on his ability to dedicate himself to get back? That said, I don't care who you are, the off-season program is going to be affected. His training camp is going to be affected. The regular season is going to be affected by this. And if you are the Bucs on opening day, the show's got to go on.
Right.
And you may not have Quan available if you've re-signed him and he's all happy and in a great mood. He may not be able to go.
Yeah, that's very valid points. And he's also learning a new defense. He's playing in a 3-4 scheme under Todd Bowles, so that's going to take some adjustment. And you have to learn that on the field, not just in the classroom. He is going to be missing, if he's re-signed, the off-season program. Maybe puts his training camp in jeopardy. So they're going to need some more linebackers. And that's why I think Devin White, Devin Bush may be at the top of the second round. For Michigan's another guy. And in the third round, that Florida kid, Ronald Jones, he's a hell of a player. So I think this is a very limited depth position, and it needs to be addressed early because there's just not a lot of great inside linebackers in this draft, and that's what the Buccaneers need.
All right, Scott, this is good stuff today. Thank you very much, as always, for your time and input. Check him out on pewterreport.com, and throughout the weekend, the guys here are going to be covering the results and that. And it's not just watching these guys run the 40s, and that's talking to them a little bit and finding out what they're all about. And some of these guys, they want to play for the Bucs. They love the Tampa Bay area. And speaking of the Bay Area, I believe we have 7 or 8 guys here at the Combine from Tampa Bay area high schools that are going to try to make their NFL dream come true. So lots to look for at the Combine, of course, all the weekend. All right, that's all the time we have today on WFLA.com, Facebook Live. We really appreciate you watching. If you like the Combine, this is it. It's almost here. You're going to have it for hours and hours, for days over the weekend. It's going to be a lot of fun. For Scott Reynolds, I'm Dan Lucas. We hope you have a great day. We'll see you at the NFL Scouting Combine.